Hey Kevin, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Doing all right. I just want to ask, these 2 weeks, how big are these 2 weeks for your players? Not just getting the physical rest, but the mental rest after having such a big win against Tulane.
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks have been really good for our guys to get themselves back. Like you said, both mentally and physically. Um, the season is always long. It's 3-4 months of straight contact, so it's been good for those guys to rest a little bit. And then also these next 2 weeks are going to be important, really, as we continue to develop our team. So the development of our younger players will be important. Us getting this game plan down pat, knowing our opponent and keeping our focus will be critical as well.
Now, I was looking at this Hawaii team. It's got the potential to be a pretty wonky type of game because they're at the top of the country in takeaways, but also at the bottom of the country in turnovers for their offense. So how do you prepare your team for a potential game where there could be a lot of, turnovers going on?
Yeah, you're right. I think they're really good at that. And, from my perspective as the offensive coordinator, I understand that we're going against one of the best defensive play callers in all of college football, and Coach Graham, and then also just his history and what he's done. So he's going to have these guys ready to play. They're going to have a great scheme. They're a big, strong physical group. And so, from our standpoint, from the offensive side, we're going to get ready for a slugfest. I truly think that's what it's going to be. And it's going to take everything we got to win it.
And then looking at, the nature of bowl games, and this is usually a time where you can kind of get some young guys on the field. How important is this for the next step of the offseason going into next year and so on?
Yeah, all right. I think you nailed it. I think if you're a young guy and you're a freshman that maybe didn't get a lot of reps this year during the season, any chance you get to show the head coach and to show myself and your position coach what you can do, because quite honestly, we're starting to build next year's team right now. So at every position, some of those guys that think maybe I didn't get enough reps during the season, man, now's your chance to prove us and show us what you can do.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Frank.
Evan and then Steven.
Hi, Coach. It seems that you've really kind of changed your offense and adjusted to the personnel at the different places you've been. How's your offense different from how it was at Indiana and then at Texas Tech?
It's really similar, I would say, to the Indiana style when we were there, which is really, a lot more based with the tight end being involved for the run game and the pass game. Texas Tech was really a lot different. That was a little bit more 10 personnel, not really a tight end involved at all, a little bit more geared towards the pass. So I think this is a little bit more Indiana based probably than it is Texas Tech.
And I guess you were out here in 2004 with Northwestern.
Yes, sir.
I think you got hosed in that game, but that's okay. But I was just wondering, how's the preparation a little bit different this time? I know you get a little bit more time preparing everything, but the travel, the humidity, things like that. What's the adjustment like over there?
Well, right. I think until we get there, I think our players really aren't going to understand what it's like, to make that long trip and to let their bodies adjust to the time change and the heat. Like you're saying, I think that'll be a big change for us. So really, other than me telling and explaining to them what it's going to be like, I think until they feel it, they really are not going to know. Now, from a video standpoint and the mental aspect, we should be on top of our game plan, hopefully by the time we get there, if we do our job in film study. But I think that, we're trying to show our players, one, how physical of a game this is going to be, and really how good Hawaii is at home in their home stadium. And we need to be fully aware of that and expect a slugfest.
And finally, one last thing. What are the challenges with a Todd Graham type of defense? I know they come at you from different angles. There are so many hybrids and everything. Or do they compare to any other team you've seen? Or
yeah, right. It's really not. It's very different. Because there's an extra sort of safety linebacker that's in a position where you really can't account for them. And so in our world, it is different. And so it takes a lot of time to explain to your kids how we're going to account for that guy. A lot of pressures coming off the edge, like you mentioned. So it'll, again, for us in our world, this will take every adjustment and every coaching point that we can do with all of our plays. We're going to try to keep it as simple as we can so we can play as fast as possible.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Evan.
All right, Kevin, I thought I was jumping in all good.
What's up, Evan?
Everything good to see you too.
Yes, sir, man.
So the last few games, Asa's obviously come into a bigger role, and he's obviously had such a great role. He's been able to find the end zone. His pass catching has been on display. What's really changed where he's been able to kind of have that role, and what's really kind of made him come on strong these last few weeks?
So I had a great conversation with Asa today in stretch, and I'm smiling and laughing because if you remember, Evan, last year, Asa was the one that as the year went on, the longer we played, the more Asa showed up. And you know what? It's been the same thing this year. And so for me, he's been the model of consistency, I think, for our offensive unit. We've had some other guys get banged up. We've had some roles change. And I think Asa's been that guy that was in the right place at the right time. He's been preparing very well. And then he's made the most of his opportunities when he gets on the field. So I absolutely love him. He's got a great attitude. He's got a great smile every day. But quite honestly, Evan, to answer your question, he's one of those kids that just comes to work every day. And all of a sudden, it's working out in his favor that now he's reaping that reward from that hard work.
In your experience, obviously Asa last year did this, as you said, but like in your experience, when a player comes on strong at the end of the season, how much fun is it to kind of, figure out how to use someone in the offense who maybe wasn't as a big factor early on, but now has come on strong and you're just like, okay, how can we keep finding ways to get him on the field?
No doubt about it. That's exactly what we do is, man, all of a sudden, instead of maybe throwing a screen to a receiver, now I'm going to throw that screen to the tailback, right? And you know what, Evan, you'll remember this. It's very similar to Antonio Gibson in 2019, where at the beginning of the year, he was sort of just a guy. But as the year kept going, he kept making plays. And all of a sudden, we were drawing up plays for him. So, yeah, I think, and especially with some extra time on our world as coaches, it gives me a chance to maybe be a little bit more creative with how can I get the ball to Asa.
Gotcha. Okay. And then last thing for me is you guys have typically, bringing up Hawaii and how good they are at home. You guys have struggled on the road this year a little bit with putting up points and trying to keep that thing going. So with the time change, with the travel, and just kind of looking over the tape a little bit, how have you been looking at seeing how are ways you guys can bring that same consistency you brought at the Liberty Bowl to now bring it on the road again in the bowl game?
Evan, I think that's the $1 million question, bud. And that's something that as a staff, we got to put that together. And listen, if you come up with a good answer, you let me know as well. But here's what I know, man. We're going to prepare. We're going to get our guys ready. We're going to practice really hard here. We're going to rest up. We're going to get on that plane. And then once we get there, Evan, is when I think we really have to crank it up a notch with our sleep and our hydration, our nutrition, our film study. Because again, everything changes. You fly away across the country. It's going to be warmer than what we're used to. A lot of distractions. You're not sleeping in your own bed. All those things are going to come to life. But to answer your question, Evan, a mature football team and with some good senior leadership, then hopefully we'll be ready to play on game day.
The warm weather, I'm sure, isn't going to be that much of a problem, I hope, right?
Well, let's hope now. Let's hope we can enjoy it. But at the same time, we got to get ready to play in it too, though.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, we got one more. Yep, thanks, Coach. No, you're good.
Oh, sorry.
We got one more for Frank.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. Going back to the young guys, are there any players in particular that have stood out in practices or this season that you look forward to seeing what they can do in the bowl game?
It's a great question. For this bowl game, Frank, I don't know that you'll see any different faces than maybe what we've seen the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you. But I will say there are some young guys that we're going to be counting on in the near future, bud. But for this game, I don't know. I don't think it'll be much different.
And when are you guys flying out to go to Hawaii?
We fly the 19th.
All right, appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.